Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another Breaking Brad video where I react to breaking news and viral moments in short form. I want to talk about something that just came down the pipeline, just came across my feed, and that is the Trump administration losing a major free speech and First Amendment case. This, of course, concerns their attempt to deport and revoke the visas of some people because of their speech, whether it's articles criticizing Israel or pro-Palestinian protests. A debate has emerged as to whether legal residents or immigrants have First Amendment protections just like the rest of us. And the state of the Supreme Court precedent on this was somewhat unclear, so now we're starting to get these lower court decisions, and it will ultimately have to probably go up to the Supreme Court. But we have a big court decision that just came down, and a Reagan-appointed judge ruled against the Trump administration. Let's go to Mediaite for the details. Trump admin absolutely scorched by Reagan-appointed judge over chilling free speech crackdown. This is by Sarah Rumpf. A federal judge issued a scathing rebuke to President Donald Trump's crackdown on pro-Palestinian student protesters, finding that his administration had illegally targeted immigrant students for deportation in order to, quote, strike fear into protesters exercising their First Amendment rights, expressly ruling that non-citizens lawfully present in the U.S. have, quote, the same free speech rights as citizens. On Tuesday, Judge William G. Young with the U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts issued a 161-page opinion that was, quote, the most scathing legal rebuke of the Trump era, as political senior legal affairs reporter Kyle Cheney phrased it. So just to pause here for a moment, I want to draw a distinction that's very important to me, which is a distinction between people who have their visas revoked because they broke the law or committed crimes, which I am totally okay with and support, versus people who just said something that the administration objects to. The administration has cited this very broad latitude to revoke the visa of and deport anybody who basically advocates against the policy of the United States. And I always thought that was dangerously overbroad and ripe for abuse. I mean, that same logic could have been used by the Biden administration to deport Jordan Peterson because he disagreed with the U.S. support for Ukraine in the Ukraine-Russia war. I just think when it comes to ideas and words, we're better off just letting people be. Now, if they break the law, if they provide any sort of material support for a terror group, if they, commit trespassing or other crimes, that's a totally different story. When you're a guest in our country, you do not have the right to come here and break our laws. But I do think you still have the right to come here and speak your mind and not be deported because of it. And that's definitely what happened in some of these cases involving the Trump administration that were ultimately litigated in this court case. Mediaite continues, the opinion addressed the detention and deportation of students who had been attending college in the U.S. on student visas, including Mahmoud Khalil, who organized pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia University, and Rumeysa Ozturk, who was arrested by masked DHS agents after co-authoring an op-ed criticizing Tufts University's response to the Israel-Gaza war and resolutions passed by student groups, noting that neither had a criminal history. Young went through these and other cases involving non-citizen student protesters in detail, finding the Trump administration's justifications of stamping out anti-Semitism on college campuses to be insufficient, noting that there was often, quote, no direct connection between the anti-Semitic activities the administration was claiming and the actual words or actions of these specific students. So this is, again, an important point, like Rumeysa Ozturk, who the Trump administration tried to deport because they just didn't like an article she wrote. I think that case is a pretty clear attack on free speech and open debate. And even the case of Mahmoud Khalil, I think, is more complicated because he organized these Columbia protests and some of them involved illegal activity like trespassing. However, what I would have liked to seen the Trump administration do if they wanted to deport him is charge him with a crime, then deport him because of the crime. Don't just cite him being anti-American or just undermining our policies or any of these kinds of vague nebulous speech-based justifications for deportation. I did have an issue with that, and I still do. But the fundamental legal question at stake in this court case, and I think it will have to go up to the Supreme Court because the administration will surely challenge this, is do legal immigrants, we are not talking about illegal immigrants, something of a different question, do legal immigrants have First Amendment rights? And this judge argues, this Reagan-appointed judge, although I think he may have become more politically liberal in his inclinations since then. But anyway, this judge says that, yes, they do. In his ruling, he writes, the opinion began by quoting the First Amendment in full and ruling in clear terms that non-citizens lawfully present in the U.S. do in fact, quote, have the same free speech rights as citizens. Here is from the opinion. This case, perhaps the most important ever to fall within the jurisdiction of this district court, squarely presents the issue of whether non-citizens lawfully present here in the United States actually have the same free speech rights as the rest of us. The court answers this constitutional question unequivocally, yes, they do. No law means no law. The First Amendment does not draw President Trump's invidious distinction, and it is not to be found in our history or jurisprudence. No one's freedom of speech is unlimited, of course, but these limits are the same for both citizens and non-citizens alike. So this is an important point. If you actually think about it, free speech is, at its core, a human right. It's just an extension of the rights and dignities that we all deserve as human beings. And then the First Amendment of the Constitution is only meant to enshrine that right. It doesn't give it to us. We start with it as human beings. And then nothing in the First Amendment, if you care about what the Constitution says only for some people, right? It doesn't say, it says that the Congress shall make no law, which has been extrapolated to mean the entire government because they set the laws and the rest of the government enforces them, abridging the freedom of speech. But it doesn't say, it's a restriction on what the government can do. It doesn't say, but some groups of people not allowed. It doesn't say only for U.S. citizens. And many other parts of the Constitution have been repeatedly found to include non-citizens, legal residents, immigrants, and the like. Because again, it's the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is about restricting what the government can do. It's not about giving rights to citizens. So I think that's a totally legitimate point, legally speaking, although, of course, the Trump administration will appeal it, and I do think it will have to go to the Supreme Court. But I guess what I would say is I would rather live in an America where people who are lawfully present here, so immigrants, are entitled to full First Amendment protections. Even if that means some of them will say and do things I find very offensive, I would rather them have the rights to do that because it also protects, like, say that you are on the more pro-Israel side of this debate. We'll say that a future progressive president wants to just deport Israeli students who come here and support Bibi Netanyahu, or students from across the globe who come here, or legal immigrants who come here and support Israel. It's like they could cite the same justifications the Trump administration is trying to defend in court to do exactly that. So the question that we face as a society is, which would you rather have, right? Would you rather have a society where all lawfully present people have robust free speech rights? Or would you rather have one where, unless you're a citizen, you kind of have to watch what you say? Like, I have some friends who are legal immigrants, and they don't post anything on social media about their political views. They're very careful. They're very guarded. I understand why they are. I'm not shading them. I really don't think they should have to be. And I'm not sure that we're best served as a society by having people censor themselves and not say what they think because the government might take away their visa, that they have to, operate here as a medical professional or as a technological professional or something unrelated to their political views. I just think that if those are the only two options, it's got to be all or nothing. You can't have, only the ones I don't like will get censored. That's not how this ever works. I'd rather have more speech, even if it means tolerating stuff that we abhor or object to or find grossly reprehensible. I would rather have all people in the United States legally have these robust rights. And so I hope that ultimately this case is vindicated at the Supreme Court and that the precedent is established here, that that's how we're going to operate. And we're going to solve our differences with debates, not deportations. That's my take, at least. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Make sure to subscribe, yada, yada, yada. If you're interested in my longer form coverage of internet insanity and social media chaos, all from an independent perspective, make sure you check out the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, iHeart, Spotify, yada, yada, yada. And with that, guys, we'll talk again.